Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we have just a few things to conclude, and we have in our midst the Honorable Minister for Justice of the Republic of Senegal, who will help us close our conference. She has one little assignment before she closes our conference. May I invite the Honorable Minister, Yasin Fall. For many of us, Madam Yasin Fall needs no introduction. But just for very brief, she is a progressive economist by training. She's an activist by her way of life. She's a Pan-Africanist, deep soul and spirit. She is now the Honorable Minister for Justice, but she was also the immediate past Minister, Foreign Minister, or Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Senegal. So once again, put your hands together for us to invite Yasin. May I ask you to do 2 assignments? First assignment is to provide, to give some small presents to our panelists that just left, our historical panelists. Please bring them. May I ask, let's start with Samia. Samia Nkrumah. I think who will give to Aminata? We will ask... that's the military trolley, yeah. So Samia, this is a small present to say thank you for coming, for sharing your life story, sharing your father's life story, and for inspiring us. Thank you very much. Honorable Aminata. Madam Aminata, as we have introduced her many times, is an activist, a fighter, a Pan-Africanist, a feminist, a cultural icon, and true a sister and a comrade to all of us. Thank you very much for sparing the time. Even so. Next. Yes, 2 more, please. Well, this is Honorable Horace Mwalimu Camwell. Thank you for being a teacher for years, for being a true African internationalist, inspirer, and fighter for justice. Apologies for overusing you here, but we couldn't let you go to waste. Thank you very much. Please. Dr. Julius Garvey. This is for you and for your father, and a father of Pan-Africanism and African unity. We have not yet realized the one Africa yet, but we shall not give up fighting. Thanks for coming to show us solidarity. Dr. Diallo Diop, your father's work in science, in particular, Africa's role in civilization, gave us all dignity. We all read it for our own source of dignity, and thanks very much and for your own work. Dr. Diallo, you ran away rather quickly. Finally, Fidel. Fidel is a Burkinabe, is a Ghanaian, is a Malian, is Senegalese, is Nigerian, is Pan-African. And thank you very much for staying alive, working hard for us to remember all that Thomas Sankara did, sacrificing his life and living as a young man, 38. You embody everything we remember of him. Thank you very much. One more hand of applause for all of them. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Okay, so a group photo for all of us. You see how bad I am at these things? A group photo for all of us. So before, we have two other things. One is that we have a statement. We agreed we were going to develop a statement. It's rather rushed, as you can imagine. It's work in progress. But we've asked Walimu to read it for us before the Honorable Minister closes our meeting. Before he does that, we forgot to acknowledge Diego Guevara. Diego has spoken here, but he was the former Minister for Finance in the Republic of Colombia. Diego has accompanied IDA's work across Latin America. Diego arrived without a visa and had an interesting experience of keeping the night workers at the airport in company until the next morning. Thank you very much for your surprise and your support. Yeah. Okay. So, Walimu.
Okay. This is the draft declaration of the meeting. From November 26 to 28 in Dakar, Senegal, more than 100 leaders and scholars from a wide range of areas, including academia, diplomatic community, policymakers, industry and business, defense and security professionals, and civil society organizations from Africa, the Americas, including the Caribbean, Asia, and Europe, came at the invitation of the Ideas Africa Network, IDAN, to deliberate on the theme, rethinking regional integration, transcending past failures, and preparing for the challenges of a multipolar world. At the end of 3 days' intense, fruitful, and fraternal deliberations, we remain convinced that African unity and progressive Pan-Africanism is an important imperative for the survival and emancipation of African peoples wherever they may be. In all areas, whether defense and security, the fight against climate change, development finance and debt crisis, prevention, intra-African trade and industrialization, etc., strategies for cooperation and coordination on a continental scale are a necessity. The centrality of the working peoples in the Pan-African project, in the realization of the struggles for dignity, was always at the core of Pan-Africanism. At the end of the 19th century, intellectuals articulated a clear program of African liberation for African peoples at home and abroad. We therefore reiterate and endorse the message of the champions of African unity, such as Marcus Garvey, George Padmore, Kwame Nkrumah, Michel Githai Mugo, Cheikh Anta Diop, Walter Rodney, Julius Nyerere, and many others who understood that Pan-Africanism is a political project to defend African identity and unify African peoples wherever they may be. As such, Pan-Africanism is also ambition, aspiration to rehumanize the world. I want to underline that word. Pan-Africanism is an ambitious project to rehumanize. Considering the political reunification of Africa as a whole is indispensable for its sovereign independence, for the moral and physical integrity of Africans and Afro-descendants wherever they may be, and for the advent of the true democracy, the real question remains how to achieve this within a reasonable time frame. We rejoice and celebrate the participation in this memorable meeting of the literal and figurative heirs of legendary figures of Pan-Africanism. Dr. Julius Garvey, son of Marcus Garvey. Miss Samia Nkrumah, daughter of Kwame Nkrumah. Mr. Fidel Todd, childhood friend of Thomas Sankara and Minister of Onde's presidency. And Dr. Diallo Diop, nephew of Cheikh Anta Diop and his intellectual and political heir, honored us with their presence and graced us with their time, wisdom, and unswavering optimism for the project of African unity. On their behalf, and on behalf of all participants, we wish to encourage African heads of states, intellectuals, youth, women, cultural workers, and social movements to work together and resolutely take the necessary and urgent measures needed to cement Africa as a unified bloc in the emerging multipolar world. Without any pretense to exhaustivity, we would like to insist on some areas for which we think a collective action could no longer be delayed. Our goal is a united Africa in a multipolar world. Africa cannot find its rightful place in an increasingly multipolar world if it remains fragmented and divided. It cannot rid itself of debt, bondage, dependence, poverty, and underdevelopment, nor can the continent adequately respond to climate change and insecurities if it remains fragmented. Unity is a prerequisite not only for confronting challenges, but also for harnessing opportunities that arise from geopolitical shifts and rapid technological change. Beyond simply managing risks and opportunities in this changing environment, stronger unity will enable Africa to leverage political strength and economies of scale to emerge as a significant player in the multipolar world. In that vein, it will be important to coordinate the sale of African raw materials with a view to exploiting them on the continent for the benefit of the continent, coordinate industrial policies at the regional and continental level, adopt a conceptual approach that pools resources to ensure the continent's energy sovereignty and green transformation. We need also to continue promoting the teaching of progressive Pan-Africanist writings in school curricula and working to make them available in national languages. The same effort should be pursued to strengthen the continent's relations with its diaspora in the cultural, diplomatic, economic, and other fields. The importance of monetary integration for African. I'll repeat this last section. The importance of monetary integration for African transformation. The continent has to break free from the legacy of monetary colonialism, visible through the CFA franc, and work towards the advent of a monetary and financial system for Africans and by Africans that can be based on sovereign and equitable partnerships with the rest of the world. Financing, which was intended to support investment, economic growth, has become a major obstacle to emancipation in Africa, with fragmentation increasing the risk and costs of borrowing while hampering the efficient allocation of resources and reducing economic policy across Africa to managing balance of payment crisis. The world is experiencing major geopolitical shifts, marked, among others, by the polarization of the international monetary system. This change for new reserve currencies offers a significant opportunity for Africa to strengthen in the international financial region can overcome monetary fragmentation. A continental approach to human capital has become an increasingly vital pillar of African integration and development in a multipolar world. While most African economies are too small to compete individually, they can pool resources for research, innovation, and education, creating a competitive continental ecosystem. This approach has the potential to build a critical mass of world-class engineers and scientists, allowing the region to leverage economies of scale to independently lead the development of cross-border infrastructure, expand industrial capacity to speed up the transformation of African economies, and create more opportunities in a region where unemployment rates have remained at Great Depression era levels for decades. Harnessing a united and collective African force to promote lasting peace and prosperity in a multipolar world. Although multipolarity raises the risk of proxy wars, and conflicts, collective security serves as a strong risk mitigant and conflict prevention measure. It will secure Africa's lasting peace and security in an increasingly competitive global order while supporting transformation prospects and global income convergence. To secure peace and stability at the continent, on the continent, by 1, removing foreign military bases. I hope you applaud on that one. Let me repeat that this is the declaration of this meeting. To ensure peace and stability in the continent by 1, removing foreign military bases. Coordinating vigorous action in the main war zones that continue to destabilize the continent, such as Sudan, the Sahel, the Great Lakes region. And number 3, building a continental army capable of ensuring the security and defense of the continent. The international relations of Africa bloc with the rest of the world should be determined according to the principles of equality, reciprocity, and mutual respect. Africa will be home to most of the world's youth over the course of the 21st century. This important asset will have to be leveraged to transform African economies and position the continent as a bedrock of peace, stability, and prosperity. As participants in this meeting, which is being held in the spirit of Pan-Africanism and internationalism, we each declare within our respective capacities and areas of expertise our willingness to contribute in solidarity to any action or initiative that would help achieve the ideals of progressive Pan-Africanism, which are also those of a multipolar world and a common humanity. Asanteni sana.
All right, so be here. Thank you very much, Mwalimu Horace. This has been put together at very short notice. May we ask, for the sake of time, that if you have some comments, additions, and suggestions that will help to improve the statement, please forward them to Mdongo, so we can compile it together. But we want you to have a flavor of some of the things that will go into the paper. Thank you very much for those who put this together at very short notice. May we give them a hand of applause. May I now ask the Honorable Minister for her remarks, and she will then officially close our conference for us. What remains for me and Demba to do is to thank you all after the minister would have made her remarks and officially close. Madam Yasin Fall.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I wish I could speak in Wolof, but I'm going to speak in English. And I want to start by showing how I am so well connected to those people who are heirs of our late leaders, and who were in the panel that we just finished when I came. I was born on the Senegal River, on the side of Senegal that is facing Mauritania. My mother is from that side. And my father is from the south of Mauritania, on the other side of the river, on the Mauritania side. My father was born very close to the capital of former Kingdom of Ghana, Kumbisale. This is my connection with Ghana. When I was in the United Nations and I was Director of Economic Division, I should travel a lot, especially to Latin America, in Asia. But every time I went to a country in Latin America, be it countries where we saw it was more indigenous populations, I said, are there any people of African descent? And I would go and visit them. Actually, one time I met with our elder, lovely brother, Amadou Mahtar, and I was going to Bolivia. And he sent me a message for Evo Morales, because it was while he was president. When I went to Costa Rica, I said, no, this time I am going to Lemon to visit the house that was built by Marcus Garvey. I was very sad last night, and my brother told me that the house was burned down to the ground, because my husband and I went traveled, and we were just so much impressed by how big that house was. You can see the vision. By a house built with wood, but stood so strong, so big, you can see the vision of Marcus Garvey for Africa. When I was 10 years old, I grew up in Pekin, in the suburbs of Senegal. My father was an imam, and I barely made it to attend school because my father's brothers were all upset that he took my older sister to French school. So my mother had to really plead to my father to convince him to allow me to go to school. I slipped in because they had closed a list of registration, and I still remember my mom standing, my father sitting down on his carved wooden leather praying mat, and my mom convinced him to write a note for me to be accepted after the list was closed. So I was really lucky to attend school. And I went to school, girls' school, elementary, high school. At the university, I started actually sharing classrooms with boys because it was all girls' school. But when I was 10 years old, coming from school, walking from a street in Pekin, because when I came from school, I had to go back home and go fetch water in the public fountain. Water was free then. So I went home, I put my bag, and I took my bucket of water going to fetch water. And from the ground, it's a very... The book was named George Washington Carver. In Sandy, Pekin, in the suburbs of Dakar. I went back home, didn't fetch water, because books was it was something, unbelievable for me to get, because, I didn't have money to buy books. So I went back home and I told my mom, I didn't fetch water because I found a book. She said, a book? Where did you find it? I said, I found it in the street. It was very well kept, very sandy. That book was about slavery. It was about enslaved men. So some of you who know, George Washington Carver, who was a scientist, born in Georgia. I never heard about slavery in my life. And I read the book, and I couldn't believe what was in the book, that he was enslaved. I didn't know slavery existed. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that this was true. So I went to my father, who was an imam, who was very well learned, who used to write, and asked him, do you know slavery, esclavage? He said, what is that? Because my father didn't speak French, and I started explaining him. He said, yes, slavery existed, but he described to me transatlantic slavery, but not, trans-Saharan slavery. But he did not talk about transatlantic slavery. So I really thought that the book was just imaginary. Until I went to elementary school, and my teacher, who was from Casamance, Dr. Louis Jerome Jeju, started telling me, you are very stubborn. I'm going to call this the grandson of Federb if you don't behave. And I said, who is Federb? Federb was one of the most cruel colonial masters who was in Senegal, who's actually, was in Saint Louis. There's a bridge named after him till Pont Federb, and was a very cruel man because he killed many, many people out of resistance in the north part of Senegal, where I was born, in Dagana, in Walo. That's when I started really reflecting about colonization and about race relations at a very young age. Until I went to high school when I learned about slavery. So I started being very curious, and I think from that time, I started being very angry inside me to understand race issues, but I didn't have an answer to it. So this is why my whole life, I have always talked about race relations as an African. So that brought me actually into Pan-Africanism. And of course, as I went down until I'm going to skip, the first political party I joined was RND, party created by Cheikh Anta Diop. And I was a student in France with Diallo Diop. We met a lot of time in Montparnasse in his house. I was in the metro of Paris selling the newspapers he was talking about, Tax Tahoe. So this was the years, 4 years of my life as a student in France, active in politics. I actually got out of Cheikh Anta Diop in 1980, RND, when Cheikh Anta Diop left the party. And the next party I joined was PASTEF. I joined PASTEF because it is a Pan-Africanist party. And it is a party that talks about the need for Africa to have sovereignty, the need for Pan-Africanism and independence. True independence from colonial power, be it military, economic, and cultural. Why do I talk about this? I think it's very important for us to always go back to where we come from, to keep our energy of struggle. Wherever we are, wherever we stand, this fire, this flame of Pan-Africanism should never leave us. This is me, who was Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I'm very happy that what happened in Guinea-Bissau did not find me as Minister of Foreign Affairs. I'm really happy. I am also very happy as Minister of Justice because of the tasks I am asked to do, to bring justice in Senegal, because there is no peace, there is no reconciliation without truth and justice. And justice is not only about ensuring that young people who died between 2021 and now get justice. Justice is about how Africa gets justice, how Africa owns its own resources, how Africa decides on its own what to do, how to do it, how Africa, each African country in its continent, say that military presence in our country, in our countries, need to stop, it needs to end. This is justice. Justice is how our resources. I was just listening to the other day a speaker, African-American speaker, who was saying Africa is the only continent that needs nothing from no one. I think my brother here, who I would like to thank and celebrate, because when I was in opposition, fighting for PASTEF at the international level, he held my hand. You heard him speak and present, but my brother, Mwalimu, I call him Mwalimu, the teacher, and I think he's expressed here how he's been really sharing his knowledge. I went several times to Syracuse University to speak there, to talk about what we were doing in Senegal to the IS countries. You know, when PASTEF was fighting, and people were being incarcerated, young people, even if you make a joke, you write a Facebook post, I mean, as little as it is, you are incarcerated. Where do young people went? Where did they go? Did they go to Mauritania? Did they not go to the Gambia? Did they go to Guinea-Bissau? They went to Mali. Several of our young people who were resisting felt safe in Mali. They stayed there until the day after the elections. We should ask ourselves why and how were they treated. We should try, like my sister Aminata was saying yesterday, how can we understand what is happening today in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso? What is our role as Pan-Africanists? How can we individually, collectively tell the story, understand the situation, and how do you support? Because there is a bigger hand beyond the humanitarian crisis. There is a bigger hand trying to destabilize this country. And we know it. We understand it. So our solidarity should go to that. I think what is going on in Senegal requires writing, understanding, documenting, and collective action. Because, as you know, Senegal has gone through, people call it hidden debt. Some institutions that say they didn't know that we know, I'm sure they knew. We know how it goes. We've been for 30 years writing about international financing institutions and what happens with countries. Senegal is bad news to many. What is going on, the leadership in Senegal is bad news to many because they don't want an example of a country that came through election led by young people and come with a program that is revolutionary and progressive. So, this group needs to do something about Senegal. What kind of support Senegal needs? What kind of rallying organization internationally Senegal needs? It is our own collective responsibility to support Senegal so that Senegal succeeds. There may be mistakes. You need to call on those mistakes. Those of us who are in here in position on power, we need you to call on us and tell us, no, you are not on the right path. We need you for folk to calling on us, but we need you especially collectively to support Senegal. On an international collective support, on hidden forces, on visible forces, so that we stay on course. So that what we sold to the Senegalese people, the project we presented to the Senegalese people, that will help us maintain that will help us respect our word, so that people who died for defending that will not regret for sacrificing their life, and their families will not regret that. We need you for that. We need you, as the document say, that we need to organize. We need to put women's leadership at the forefront of this. We need to bring youth leadership at the forefront of this struggle, so that together, as Africans, we prevail. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Ministre. Votre appel au soutien de ce régime, je crois que c'est un appel qui est déjà acquis, mais qui va être renforcé encore après ce magnifique discours qui démontre que au Sénégal aujourd'hui, il y a de l'espoir, pas seulement pour le Sénégal, mais pour l'Afrique et au-delà de l'Afrique. Ça va? Excusez-moi. Donc, merci Madame la ministre de la Justice. Maintenant, moi, je vais dire juste quelques mots de remerciement au nom de vous tous et de vous toutes, après ces 3 jours magiques que nous avons passés ensemble. Donc, j'ai rédigé un petit texte hier et je suis sûr que les sentiments que j'exprime ici seront partagés par vous toutes et vous tous. Alors nous, participantes et participants à la première conférence du réseau africain de IDAN, tenons à souligner ce qui suit. Saluons le caractère historique de cette conférence qui s'est... Do you have your... it's coming through? Okay. Saluons le caractère historique de cette conférence qui s'est déroulée en présence de figures emblématiques du continent et de la diaspora. Nous nous réjouissons de la présence effective de Samia Nkrumah, fille du leader visionnaire, charismatique et éminent panafricaniste, le président Kwame Nkrumah. Julius Garvey, fils du légendaire Marcus Garvey. Le professeur Horace Campbell, éminent intellectuel africain-américain. Nous nous réjouissons également de la présence de Madame Aminata Dramane Traoré, ancienne ministre de la Culture du Mali, de Fidel Toé, ancien ministre et compagnon de Thomas Sankara. Nous nous réjouissons également de la présence d'éminents intellectuels d'autres continents. Nous saluons la présence de personnalités et d'intellectuels du Sénégal et du continent. Nous sommes unanimes à saluer la grande qualité des présentations et le niveau élevé des débats. Nous saluons l'éclatant succès de la conférence. Aussi, nous exprimons nos vifs remerciements et sincères félicitations aux dirigeants et membres de IDAS. Nos remerciements et félicitations vont plus particulièrement au président de IDAS, Charles Abougré, et au directeur du département Afrique, notre cher collègue Ndongo Samba Silla. Dakar, le 28 novembre 2025. I am through. So you have the last words.
I think Ndongo sent me a very long thing to thank a lot of you, but we do not want to keep us waiting, Minister waiting. I'm still going to ask her to do one more thing, which is declare our meeting closed. The only thing I would like to say is that major thanks to the government of Senegal for helping us organize this. The minister himself, Minister Amadou, was also here for a few days. Representatives for the president's office were here. So we feel totally and completely supported and uplifted. I want to avoid repeating many of the thanks, and also just to say a lot of these conversations were live streamed across several media houses in Senegal, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Kenya, at least East Africa, and online. So we have a global audience. We would like to follow up all the information that have been provided. We will try to offload them on the website or make them available for anybody who wants to utilize them. We'll of course encourage people who have presented PowerPoints and having written papers to write them so that they are permanently available. Finally, let me thank Demba for helping to co-organize this, for all of us who have made an effort to come here to spend 3 or 4 or 5 days to teach and to share our knowledge. Let's keep the solidarity, and let's take forward the minister's appeal. And one appeal is that Senegal has a big problem, which is one of injustice. And that injustice is billions of dollars that were supposed to be hidden. And that Senegal is now under pressure to pay a debt that its people did not know of, did not utilize, but if it pays, it has to do so at a total cost of development. And after all, young people had sacrificed their lives up till now in order to bring about a change of government. This is a serious international issue, an issue of capital and an issue of the responsibility of the IMF. So we have to be able to direct our collective energy to not put, so that Senegal is not put through a process that makes it impossible to fulfill the promise of the last election. I just wanted to emphasize that as a potential action going forward, in addition to all of the things we committed to do. May I, after on all of this, ask those I have not specifically acknowledged to bear with us. We will have this acknowledgement also sent to all of us. But we are all acknowledged. We've all contributed, and we are all happy. We hope you found it useful. On these grounds, may I ask the Minister to now formally declare our conference closed.
Thank you very much, Charles. I am really honored to be with you, and again, congratulate all of you who participated in organizing this, in planning it. And I see also that you had good support from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I would like to thank the Minister for supporting the initiative and committing to support more of what you're doing in Senegal. And I would like to really thank all of the participants, those who facilitated the meeting, those who participated and spoke, those who came from overseas, and those who are here from the continent, outside the continent. And say that we are going to be committed to trying to realize the declaration and its the commitment taken, and the promise of Charles to take forward some of the action that we have discussed. And after all of that, then, je voudrais vous remercier tous, dire que c'était un plaisir d'être là avec vous, de vous écouter, de participer en partie au dernier panel qui était vraiment pour moi le panel historique. Parce que quand on voit un frère qui est là, qui a 92 ans, et qui, le fils de Marcus Garvey, le leader du panafricanisme, avec nous, le Sénégal a la chance. Quand on voit mon frère ici, Mwalimou, Horace Campbell, un éminent professeur, un ami, un frère, avec nous ici, Charles, et tous les autres qui sont là, ma sœur Aminata, qui est notre championne, nous les femmes africaines, championne du panafricanisme, championne de la lutte contre le néocolonialisme, championne de la lutte pour la souveraineté économique, et qui est toujours là, debout, à nos côtés. Avec vous tous, vous toutes, je vous remercie encore une fois, et je voudrais donc déclarer clos cette conférence, cette réunion, et vous dire bientôt, à très bientôt. Nous sommes dans le gouvernement, nous sommes avec vous, et à chaque fois qu'on aura l'occasion de participer, de prendre part et de réfléchir avec vous, nous le ferons, parce que c'est ça l'esprit PASTEF, le panafricanisme et la libération du continent. Merci beaucoup. Et au revoir.
Thank you.